And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. A poker run is an organized event in which participants must visit 5 to 7 checkpoints, drawing a playing card at each one. The object is to have the best poker hand at the end of the run. Having the best hand winning is purely a matter of chance. On today's Open Connection, we learn the origins of the Smithers Chip Run.
The reason the chip run started was because my brother Bob was living in Smithers. He was the Frito-Lay rep there, and he traveled from Houston to Kitwanga daily, was his chip route. So when he passed away, he was diagnosed in April of 2011 and had a short, quick battle with cancer and died in July of 2011, so only 3 months. So family, we were all into biking and motorcycles, so my brother decided to start the chip run in 2011, and we started off with 13 bikes, and the ride goes from Smithers out west to Kitwanga and then back again with stops along the way to do the poker hands. So yeah, in the beginning, we started with 13 bikes and we raised $1,500 the first year. And when Bob was doing treatment, he had lost so much weight, but his treatments were hours long. And he had said that how uncomfortable the treatment chairs were. So in our first year, we organized the money and bought the cancer room, a lazy boy style chair it's called the Bob chair. There's a plaque there that says it's the Bob chair. So a lot of people have really enjoyed that chair over the years, and we have replaced it with a second one 2 years ago. So it gets used a lot. So yeah, we decided to go ahead on with the chip run each year, and my brother handed it over to me. And with that, we've grown to over 95 bikes last year. And this year we'll be surpassing $100,000 we've donated to the Smithers Cancer Room and Community Cancer Care Team. And the funds go towards helping patients with treatment or accommodation if they can't get treatment in Smithers. Before the chip run started, I knew of people that had cancer or was dealing with cancer. And now with running the chip run for the last 10 years, it's on a daily event that I hear about someone with cancer or someone battling cancer or past of cancer. And it just hits home to everybody that's a part of it. The first run, I never had my motorcycle yet, so I rode along with my brothers. The following year, I finally got my Harley Davidson, so I was on it and riding just as much as everybody else out there. And the first run, it was basically family and close friends that knew Bob, and it was just like a family gathering. And over the years now, there's people that come from Langley, Kamloops, Mackenzie, 100 Mile House, Terrace, Kitimat, Prince Rupert, and we all gather in Smithers, and it's just amazing to see the camaraderie and just the gratitude from everybody for doing this, because the monies are kept local. And that is a huge, huge thing for a lot of people that are raising money for cancer.
Earlier, you mentioned that there was the Bob chair.
Yeah.
Tell me about, was it difficult to choose it, to bring it in, or?
It is. We have to, there's a mandate through the nurses. It has to be able to do certain movements. The chair has to be able to lie extremely flat in case the patient goes into cardiac arrest or anything like that, where they can actually move them in the chair in a flat position. We do have an event after the motorcycle ride. It's in Smithers at the last hand of the poker hand. There's an entrance fee. So during the event, there's shirt and patch sales, a silent auction. And then this year we have a pig roast that's been donated. And so the meal is included in that. So it's $15 entrance fee into that. If you're on the ride, it's a $20 entrance fee with a free poker hand. And if there's any cash donations wanted, they can mail me. And if they're made out to the community cancer care team, they'll get a tax receipt for that. The communities between Burns Lake and Terrace out to Kitwanga, they have all just been very supportive with auction donations, cash donations, sponsorship. And it's just very heartwarming to know that 5 or 6 communities can come together for the people of the Bulkley Valley that are struggling with cancer.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thanks for staying with us. There are many different types of cancers. All are characterized by cells that start growing abnormally and spread to other parts of the body. Based on the Canadian cancer statistics, 43% of Canadian women and 45% of Canadian men will develop cancer during their lifetime. Let us rejoin the conversation with Alice Christensen.
You know, the hospital provides cancer treatment to patients, whereas we're a group that fundraises for to make life just a little bit easier for patients. Patients get referred from the BC Cancer Agency to our hospital for cancer treatment. So when we get that referral, they see one of our local physicians. We have 2 or 3 physicians that have done some extra training in oncology, and they're called GPOs, so general practitioners in oncology. So they'll see that doctor, and then they'll see one of the nurses in the clinic, and the nurse in the clinic goes over what kind of treatment they're going to be getting and how that is going to happen. There's a clerk there who also is involved in, booking the appointments and helping patients with things that they might need before they start treatment, and then as treatment kind of goes along. Because usually as treatment goes along, patients need other things. They might need a CT scan, they might need an MRI, they might need to go out of town for various things, which is where we come in because we can help patients with the cost of that. We're a charitable organization, so if you donate funds to us, we can provide a tax receipt, and there is a bit of a process. So usually one of the nurses in the clinic will can give a patient or family like an application, or they can sometimes just phone one of us and say, we have a patient and family who need to be in Prince George for radiation for 7 weeks, and they're not sure how they're going to pay for that accommodation. And so that's where we'll get involved and phone the patient, and then we'll make sure that the family gets, one of these application forms. Because we're a charitable organization, we need some kind of a process of making sure that we're being fair to everyone who applies for money, and then just explain a little bit about what that all means. So like with the chip run, it's huge because the donations that they've given us can really help a whole number of different people, over time. So yeah, so it's when people are in that situation where they need to travel and they don't have the funds, or maybe they don't have the funds right now. Sometimes we give funds to patients, and 2-3 years later they're donating funds back to us because they were so grateful at that time in their lives that when they really needed some help, that there was somewhere in town that they could turn to.
Now, that I would say, how long have you been with the organization when they've been giving out the money for the chips?
I've actually been with this organization for 10 years. So for 20 years. We started, I sort of was working with the Canadian Cancer Society as well. And the Canadian Cancer Society generally doesn't fund family members to go with patients. They'll help, and their funding has changed quite a bit. So they don't have very much money to give out to individual people. They're funding, like the cancer lodges, like the Cordoban Lodge in Prince George, and some of those kind of subsidized places for people to come and stay. And of course, lots of their money goes into research and prevention and other things like that. So we're able to top up whatever they can give to help the family member to travel with their loved one, because we know that when people travel for appointments to see specialists, you only hear half of what the specialist is saying because you're so overwhelmed with the diagnosis and what's going on, that to have another set of ears with you is pretty important. You realize what a wonderful community we live in, and how generous people are, and how much they appreciate the services that are available for people here. So yeah, I do remember meeting the family for the first time, and just being just so overwhelmed with what they were able to raise and give to us. We actually have a website. I can give that to you.
Sure.
It's bvcancercare.ca. So that's all one word. So bvcancercare, all one word.ca. And on that website, the financial application is available. You can just sort of either download it or print it off, or whatever you'd like. There's also on that website, there's also an email, but I'll give that to you right now. So it's info@bvcancercare, all one word.ca. So info@bvcancercare.ca. And if someone emailed that email gets checked probably a couple of times a week. And so then they would get an email or a phone call from one of us. So there's probably about 8 of us that sit in this charitable organization. So we're quite small, and we meet only about twice a year. But we do communicate with email. So whenever we get an application, it gets reviewed by at least 2 members of our community cancer care team. And then we decide, can we actually fund 100% of what this family needs, or can we really only fund 50%? And we do have a bit of an annual maximum just to make sure that we're sort of being fair to everyone. But we do certainly make exceptions when exceptions need to be made. But we do that as a group.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. For entrepreneurs, there is no guaranteed monthly income, no guarantee of success, and spending time with family and friends can be a challenge in the early days of launching a company. Let us rejoin the conversation as Carly Faulkner shares what happens when 40 customers show up at the same time.
Well, we had just opened the restaurant June 30th, 2015, and I believe it was Lainey that contacted us about coming out to the restaurant as part of one of their stops. And that was towards the end of July, usually around the 3rd week of July, the chip run happened. So we had just barely been open, about 3 weeks, I guess it was, when we had that first group of riders that came out. And early on, I think they had already done maybe 2 or 3 prior to 2000. So 2015 would have been probably their 3rd year, I think, 3rd or 4th year. So it had started off quite small, and then it just started to kind of grow. So I think our first year, we might have had about 40 riders that came out, and basically just cooked them some food. And it was a little bit chaotic because we were really busy with the restaurant being open already. So it was, a major learning experience to host that many people all at once. So, yeah. And I don't know, I just felt really honored to be asked initially, because I was so new to the area and new with the business, obviously, just within the first month. So it was a real honor to be asked to participate in some way. So, yeah. And just the fundraiser aspect of it, it was such a good cause. All the proceeds going straight towards the cancer clinic in Smithers. It was kind of something that was near and dear to my heart too. Everyone, I think, has likely been touched by, the loss of, or the battle of, that someone that they love has encountered with cancer. So it was something that I really felt that I wanted to take part of. Yeah.
So it sounds like you were in almost like a sink or swim situation. First, you just open up the store, and all of a sudden, you have all these ruffians showing up,
Yeah.
and saying they're hungry.
Yeah, it was that we didn't really know what to expect. And they're just wonderful people and very loving and very caring. And the rough around the edges part it's all just a big facade. So yeah, we call them fuzzy teddy bears on bikes. And yeah, we're just very happy to have them. They're always very respectful and just very loving and grateful for any of the help that was offered and could be given. So I always just contributed, we charge a certain price for the meals per person, and then anything over what I just, for the cost of what it was donated to the chip run. So, every year that it happened, I was able to participate for 6 years before we closed down last year due to COVID. And I still was able to do the group last year. We just had it outside, and everybody, it was all COVID, distanced and outside. And so everybody just kind of, we were still able to help them out last year with the fundraising. And every year it's gotten bigger and bigger. So we've got more efficient, and this didn't work. And so let's try something different. And so it's kind of evolved over the years.
Cancer affects everyone in one way or another. Is that true with you?
Yes, I lost my grandmother, who I was extremely close with when my youngest son was about 3 months old. And that was back in 2006. So it was just a really, very heartbreaking situation. And she wasn't the only family member that we've lost to cancer, but she was the one that I was closest with. And so it had a huge impact on me. So like I said, it was kind of a no-brainer to be able to help out with, with that fundraising commitment, because, Lainey and those folks that organized the ride had lost their brother to cancer and had done it in his honor, in Bob's honor. So it was really important for them to have the support of the community, because it was something that they wanted to give back rather than wallowing in the unhappiness of it. They are turning it into something, positive to help other people. So that in itself was really great to be part of, while you're remembering, it's remembering with happiness and, the good times and the good memories, and spreading that positivity to other people. And it's such a healing thing too, emotionally, to be able to give back.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
According to the Statistics Canada's website, small businesses make up 98% of all employer businesses in Canada. Therefore, these businesses have a significant impact on the overall Canadian economy. In this final segment of Open Connection, Carly shares how COVID restrictions affected her restaurant.
At that time, being new to business, it was really stressful opening the business, but then to be included, with this endeavor, it was, it was pretty scary. I would say that would be my first word to describe it. And my personality is because I want to help so much, and I want everything to be just perfect. And, I don't want anything to go wrong or anybody to be disappointed. There was a lot of pressure to not disappoint anyone. Yeah. So that was really tough, because, we were so new in the whole scene. Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that because of COVID, unfortunately, you had to close your doors because people weren't around. But that didn't seem to stop you. You I guess you almost doubled down, where you said, okay, I'm going to really make this thing a go, because you came here to Terrace, right?
Yes, we had reopened. We closed in mid April of 2020, and we reopened again at the beginning of October. And we actually went through the winter under the circumstances. I kind of felt at the time in this early spring of 2020, and told my staff, and the ones that were able to remain, I didn't have that many left. And so I said, this is going to be a couple of years before things can kind of get back to normal. Our season is March to October. So, the winter is basically kind of a lot more of the local people and people from surrounding areas rather than the tourists and stuff. So I didn't really foresee that really kind of coming back for a couple of years before people would be confident to, we just didn't know where this was going. It was, nobody knew anything about it really. So we tried again in October to reopen once restaurants were able to reopen again for dining in and all that stuff. But once we came around to March of this year again, and things were starting to look not very good again with the numbers and how things were going. Yeah, I had a big decision to make. If I remained open and I wasn't going to have the staff to be able to run it properly. Some of the staff had moved away and some had gone to school. I had one of them that was having a baby and things like that. So one that retired. So I had basically had to make a decision about how I was going to do this. So I was approached by the Skeena Valley Golf Course and Terrace, and right around the same time that I had to start kind of making that decision about what I was going to do with the business. And it kind of all worked out for the timing. So, they still haven't opened the borders. They still haven't, travelers are still not really, being able to come from other, like say the States or whatever, which is a huge part of our business. Last year, we got creative with some of the fundraising tools that we were able to use because of the COVID situation. So I was able to actually come up with being able to donate meals to the nurses and doctors that were at the Wrench Memorial in Hazelton. I donated meals to help out because they were working really long hours during the COVID situation. And then what they did is they all got together and I just did it by donation, and they just wrote a check out to the chip run, directly to the chip run. So it worked out really awesome because I was able to help the nurses and doctors and feed them and give them some good food that they could just warm up when they were there working long hours. And they in turn wrote a beautiful check to the chip run last year.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind to his heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.